we tested Commissioner Coleman's audio. I see his wife trying to help him there, so you may be struggling. Commissioner Coleman, unmute yourself. Let's do an audio test.
Mr. Mayor, we are recording and we are live on YouTube. And I do see Pastor Burris in the audience.
Okay. So you have the audience on your screen. I am not able to see them. Martin is attempting to log in now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Dallas, can you call Commissioner Martin with the password?
Can you hear me?
I hear you, Commissioner Coleman. Loud.
Okay.
I think we can see Commissioner Martin.
All right, I lost my gallery view, Dallas. I'm just looking at the public comment raise hand screen. Okay, now we're back. And do we have Commissioner Martin now?
Let's see, Farnsworth. No Martin.
Can you look up the email that has the password in it? See if I can find it.
It's, there should not be a password, but the meeting ID is 966-8222-2330. And I got an email at 6 o'clock with the information as well, if you can find that.
Was there a password or is that just the ID?
It should just be the ID.
I just sent him a new email updated. It's got the direct link.
If Commissioner Norfleet comes on in his tractor, I'm going to go to my cell phone and go get on my tractor.
Yeah, we were waiting for that for you.
Well,
There's got to at least be one tractor commissioner.
well, if he doesn't, I'll go out there and get on my tractor.
Okay.
We should all get on our track.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Commissioner Martin will be joining us here momentarily. Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I do have one change. Item 8 under the agenda is to fill 2 vacancies for the P&Z. We haven't got the commissioners the scorecards out yet. So you have in your email today, right now in the past 15 minutes, you have the scorecards. If you could fill those scorecards out, listing your number 1, 2, 3 for the P&Z, for however many applicants we have, it's slipping my mind right now. Turn those scorecards in at the drive-through at City Hall, and Judy will tally up everyone's score. And on the next meeting, we'll know who's actually scored first, second, third, so forth. So I'm going to pull item 8 off. Please, in the next couple of days, check your email, download those scorecards, go through the applications, rank the applicants, and then get that information back up to City Hall. You can drop it right in the drive-through. And I see Commissioner Martin is with us. Can we do an audio check on Commissioner Martin real quick, Dallas? Tim, can you say something to him?
Yeah, I'm here.
Gotcha. All right. Wonderful. Well, we just called it to order. I removed item 8 from the agenda. That's the only change I have. Are there any questions or comments before I ask for approval of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call. Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Aye.
And I lost Commissioner Martin off of my screen. Can you hear me, Tim? Okay, having technical difficulties with Commissioner Martin, but the approval, the agenda, there he comes back on. Tim, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Yep.
Okay, it's a roll call for the approval of the agenda with the removal of item 8. How do you vote?
Understood. Aye.
Okay, agenda passes unanimously. With that, we would like to invite Reverend Karen Burris from the Newberry United Methodist Church to give tonight's invocation. And we're going to stand here at City Hall. And then if you want to stand, we'll lead in the Pledge of Allegiance as soon as Pastor Burris is completed. Pastor Burris.
Let us pray together. Lord, we ask your blessing on the people of this community in which we live and work and play. Keep them safe and healthy. Give our city leaders wisdom and courage in the midst of this pandemic to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and us speak with character and conviction and listen patiently and receptively. May we always be guided by the spirit of community, justice, and love. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of the United States of America,
of America.
to the
And to the
republic
republic
for which it stands,
stands,
one nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and
liberty
justice.
and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Burris. We certainly appreciate you.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Okay, that takes us to presentations, and we do have a proclamation calling for regular election, which I will read into the record now. Under and by virtue of the power vested in me as mayor of the city of Newberry, Florida, the general election is hereby rescheduled and called to be held in the city of Newberry, Florida on Tuesday, August 18th, 2020 for the following purpose. We have 3 commissioners to elect. Group 1, city commissioner to serve a 2-year term. Group 2, city commissioner to serve a 2-year term. Group 3, city commissioner to serve a 2-year term. And before I move on, I just want to note, Ms. Judy, should we change that? Because these are not going to be full 2-year terms. These are going to be 1 year, 8-month terms.
I'm wondering if we can reword it.
If we make the note right now, we could go ahead and approve it, and then you guys could change it as a Scrivener's error later.
We could
That's
say-
fine. That's okay, Judy.
That's
That'll
fine.
work.
So we'll figure out the exact term of months and we'll correct that. We're in agreement? Okay, I'll continue. The second item on the election would be, of course, the approval of the charter revisions. And the third item on the ballot would be a change in terms of service for the mayor and the commissioners. The election shall be held at Newberry United Methodist Church, Precinct 4, located at 24845 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida, and the Newberry Municipal Building, Precinct 6, located at 25420 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. The poll shall be open at 7 a.m. on said day and closed at 7 p.m. on the same day. The clerks, deputy, and inspectors of Precinct 4 and Precinct 6 will be assigned by Kim A. Barton, Alachua County Supervisor of Elections. The election was originally scheduled for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020, and is rescheduled due to health concerns surrounding COVID-19. Accordingly, the qualifying period already occurred from noon on Monday, March 2nd, through noon on Thursday, March 12th, 2020, and the candidates that qualified at that time are the candidates for this election. Group 1 City Commissioner is Ricky Coleman. He is unopposed. Group 2 City Commissioner, you have Mark L. Clark and Joy Glanzer. And Group 3 City Commissioner, you have Walt Boyer and Monty Farnsworth. Final day of registration, book closing for municipal election. The registration books of the City of Newberry, Florida will be closed at 5 p.m. on Monday, July 20th, 2020. Given under my hand and official seal of the City of Newberry, Florida, this 27th day of April, 2020. and attested to by the clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida. All right. The proclamation being read, we don't vote on proclamations for the election, correct? Just wanted to read it in, make sure we got all that information. So that proclamation is duly read into the record. We will change the duration of the term lengths as soon as we figure out exactly how long those terms will be. And remember, for the folks watching at home, the reason we have 2 precincts is because this new date will be on the day of the primaries, and the supervisor of elections for Alachua County is running these elections, not us here in the city. So we'll have our items on the ballot, but the supervisor of elections will be in charge. Okay, we'll move on now to Miss Judy. Did I cover everything before I move on?
Yes, we'll keep the our citizens informed closer to the election. We're 90+ days out, but we'll just let the citizens know that they can call City Hall, and I would be happy to help anybody with any questions or inquiries regarding the election.
And Miss Judy, are we still sending out, are we beginning to send out mail out ballots and take that kind of information for folks who want to mail their ballot in?
We will not be sending out any vote by mail ballots. That will be Alachua County,
The supervisor
we
elections
all-
will send them out.
but we are still taking requests, and they will be forwarded to Alachua County.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, does the commission have any questions about the proclamation for the election? Okay, hearing none. Now we'll move on. We have a time in the beginning of our meeting for public announcements. These are 2-minute non-controversial announcements. Dallas, I can't see members of the public. So if you can see them raising their hand, please invite one at a time. Or let me know that no one is raising their hand.
There is currently no one raising their hand.
Okay. Give a 30-second. And Dallas, would you mute Rich and Scott? Okay, hearing nothing from the public, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Let's go ahead and call for a vote on the consent agenda as it has been published. Roll call, Commissioner McKinley. Aye for Commissioner McKinley. Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
And I know that was out of order, Dallas, but they changed on my screen. So that will be the order now, as long as my screen doesn't change. Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously. And that takes us to our public hearings and ordinances. We have 1 item under this, but we have 10 annexations that are in front of us. Now, before I read the quasi-judicial procedures into the record, we have already heard and voted on these ordinances in the first reading. Between the first reading and tonight, the county has issued what I would call a concern about 4 of them: 2020-04, 2020-06, 2020-09, and 2020-10. The county has expressed a concern of. I'm going to invite legal into this conversation here in a minute. I've gone back and read the letter that's in your backup material that was issued to us from the county manager. I read that tone as if they'd like to continue having these conversations. I don't read it as we need to slow this up. I think we can vote on this tonight, and the county still has 30 days to hear those concerns or to express those concerns, and we can enter into a conversation about it if those concerns end up being valid. But we do have the option to pull those 4 off of the agenda tonight and wait to have that conversation. I would simply remind the commission that without us pressing the issue, these things tend to fall into a black hole and never come back out. But we can pull them off and postpone them and give the county a chance to have a conversation with our staff. we can move forward with them. Is there a third option here, Rich or Scott, that I'm missing? Or any other considerations you'd like the commission to have before they decide whether to move forward with all 10 or to pull these 4 off?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just add to that, if we do go forward today and vote to approve the 4 parcels that you had identified pursuant to those ordinances, there is a process in the Florida statutes. If the county disagrees with it, they can initiate a process within 30 days of tonight, from tonight, to enter into a dispute resolution process with the city. And then it would carry on from there if something's not worked out. So that would be the only other consideration, I think, for the commission to factor in tonight. If we do move forward and the county does object to these 4 ordinances, they may initiate that process.
And I would remind the commission, we've been down this road before where the county staff had some concerns about annexations. We talked to the BOCC directly. The BOCC did not share those concerns. So when it came up in front of the BOCC, when we moved forward, came in front of the BOCC, we showed up, we said, these, are the issues. This is the consideration. And the BOCC decided not to object any further. So I would venture to guess that same type of process would work out here. You've seen these annexations before. They all make really good sense when it comes to why we think that those annexations should be approved. And I believe the BOCC would see it in the same manner that we see it. But I don't want to read the quasi-judicial procedures for all of these if we want to pull these 4 off. So can I have should we take I have one head nod. Should we take a vote, Scott, about moving forward with all 10, just to have it in the record?
I think would it be appropriate at this time, Mr. Mayor, is for one of the commissioners to make a motion to table 04, 06, 09, and 010. If that's what the commission wishes to do. We've already approved the agenda, which contains all of those ordinances, as you've just stated. And so they're on the agenda this evening for resolution. If any of the commissioners wish to table it, then we can do so. As Rich said, the process is if the county seriously objects about it, I think your statement of the letter is correct, is from County Manager Lieberman. She said there are concerns about the annexations that staff is interposing. I don't believe there has been a formal objection by the BOCC. It's a concern. This is a concern that the county staff and their planning department has raised before, which is if you have an enclave area, and let's just say that it's a rectangular area, and in the middle of that rectangle, somebody voluntarily annexes to the city of Newberry, then do you have property on the right-hand side of the annexed area and property on the left-hand side of the annexed area, which creates now 2 separate enclave areas. We've always viewed on behalf of the city of Newberry, and the city's taken the position in the past that those enclave areas, as long as we're filling those areas in, that's to everybody's objective. The landowners voluntarily wishing to come to the city of Newberry. City of Newberry brings those particular property owners in as part of these annexations, and we're closing up what are commonly referred to as enclaves. So this is, we believe, a staff concern that's been interposed here. As Rich states, the process would be, if the county feels aggrieved by this, is to file an action within 30 days to contest the annexation procedure. It's hard to determine who would be successful in this sort of venture. The other point, Mr. Mayor, is that there is an intergovernmental dispute resolution process which they can send us a 10-day letter and invoke that process. We've done that. We've used that process before with the county, and we've been able to come to agreement as to what the city can do to alleviate the county concerns, specifically in annexation matters in the past. So there's a couple of fail safes, or there's a couple of relief valves, I guess maybe the best way to say it. If the county feels so inclined and aggrieved, I think, as you pointed out, Mayor, my memory and your memory is that about a year ago, on May 13th of 2019, we had a discussion about the properties that were out west of town that were voluntarily annexing to the city. And it was determined at that time that those were filling in enclave areas. And the county commission at that time, specifically in a joint meeting with the city of Newberry, said, proceed. We see this as a benefit of both of our governments. So that's about the best history I can give you, Mr. Mayor. And I know that's a little bit of a long-winded answer, but I think it helps to set the table for everybody.
Thank you, Scott. Does any commissioner wish to make a motion to table those 4 items? If you want to move forward with them, then the answer would be no. Commissioner Martin?
Is it actually not more appropriate to pass or put a motion on the floor and then offer an amendment to exclude them? Versus,
Well, if you don't,
I
if
don't know
you
if
want to
you
move, if you want to
I
move
don't know if
forward
you
with
can
them, it's a
table
moot point. If you're not interested in tabling them and you want to move forward, it would be a moot point. Are you wanting to table them?
I mean, I'm looking at the maps and they potentially may have an argument on a couple of them. Some of them are a little looser than others, but I'm willing to move forward with all of them. Scott, are you saying that there is, at this point, only staff concern,
Yes,
and that has not been elevated to the full commission itself, right?
correct.
That is my understanding. It is a letter from Michelle Lieberman, and it does CC the Board of County Commissioners, Sylvia Torres, the county attorney, Jim Harriet, deputy county manager, Missy Daniels, their director of growth management, and Brian Thomas, of course, our development director for the city of Newberry. It does not say in the letter that county staff has been directed by the Board of County Commissioners to write this letter. So it would appear that this letter is coming from staff.
And remember that the county commission and our commission have agreed multiple times in the past already.
Yeah.
If you're annexing land inside an enclave and you're simply reducing the size of an existing enclave, 2 of the objections that county staff has leveled, they've leveled based on that reason. The one you're probably looking at that looks the most loose is it looks like it's 2 separate parcels that are joined at a corner, but that's actually one parcel. And so in order to annex one part of it and not the other part, you'd have to force the landowner to separate the land into 2 parcels. So, my recommendation would be to move forward with all 4 of them. And then the county staff is going to bring it in front of the BOCC and they're going to say, hey, guys, by the letter of the law, these are why we told Newberry we had some concerns. And at that point, our staff, I would just certainly show up to that meeting. We'd make our case to the BOCC. And if they still had concerns, most likely, I think it would end up in sending our staff and their staff back into a room to negotiate it out. That makes sense.
Have we been in contact with some of the other adjacent property owners in the interim as well, or can we at least effort that as a little bit of conversation point to the county if and when we get to that point?
Yeah, we have, and the third, so 2 of the annexations are making enclave smaller. The 4th one is one parcel, but looks like 2. The third one is speaking exactly to what you just said. It's based on a previous objection that the county leveled, and we've gone out to the surrounding neighbors and advocated, and this one's coming in. So we think that one will actually alleviate a previous objection that the county had on an annexation in the past. So all four of the fourth one with the kind of the strange parcel is an outlier, but three of them are us doing exactly what the county commission has asked us to do. Make the enclave smaller and fill in these pockets, go out and advocate. So we're doing exactly what they have asked us to do on the majority of these annexations. And that would certainly be the bulk of my comment to them when this comes in front of the BOTC.
Well, fair enough. For me, if you feel like you can make that case, then I would be in favor of moving forward with them. And I would move make such a motion if needed and appropriate at this time.
Okay. Does anyone make a motion to table? Are we good with moving forward? Yeah, I'm not seeing any commissioner raising their hand to make a motion to table. So we're just going to move forward with the agenda as it was published with all 10 of these on it. And we'll address anything that the BOCC or their staff want to address in these annexations at a future date. Now, Dallas, I can't see the audience. I'm going to read the quasi-judicial procedures. And according to our already established procedures, as long as nobody else enters the meeting, I won't read all the procedures for every single ordinance. So I'll depend on you, Dallas, to let me know if someone else has added in, and I'll reread the procedures. So we have 10 quasi-judicial public hearings. I'm going to read these procedures once. And the procedure that we will follow tonight is that we're going to read into the record the ordinance and the subject matter. And then the attorney or the chair, I'll do it this time since I'm here, going to explain the rules concerning testimony. The primary rule is that substantial and competent evidence must be met when the board makes a decision and shall state the following. Quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. And I'm going to explain the procedures and the order of presentation in a second. But before I do that, I'd like to ask Miss Judy to go ahead and swear in anyone who is wishing to speak to any of these ordinances. So if your ordinance is any of these 10, if you would please raise your hand, Dallas will unmute you and give Dallas a second to figure that out. And Dallas, let Judy know when it looks like everyone who's going to raise a hand has their hand up.
Mr. Mayor, I may suggest that in this case, to the extent there are witnesses who are going to take the oath, that they identify themselves by name.
Okay. So if that's probably a good way to go about it. Miss Judy, go ahead and swear them in, and then just pause for a minute. We'll let everybody who's going to be sworn in state their name.
Okay.
Brian Thomas, Planning Director.
Do you hereby swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You are duly sworn.
Mr. Mayor, there are two people in the audience, Justin Richardson and Jay Brown, who have raised their hands to be sworn in.
Okay. Rich, is it suffice that Dallas read their names into the record to be duly sworn, or do they need to swear verbally?
No, that's fine. Their names are read into the record. That's sufficient.
Okay. All right. And we'll give just another second for anyone else to raise their hand. Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and ask the commission. So if you can put the commissioner gallery view back up on the screen, Dallas, for me, to disclose any ex parte communications that they may have. Commissioner McKinley, do you have any ex parte? No. Commissioner Coleman?
None.
Commissioner Martin?
No, but the two other gentlemen still need to be sworn in.
They gave their names at the end of the swearing. And
Okay.
that was sufficient.
That's
Commissioner Norfleet?
No.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
And I do not have any ex parte myself. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do for all 10 of these is we're going to hear the staff overview. The applicant will then be given the chance to present with no time limit. Then the staff will give their presentation and recommendation, also with no time limit. I have not been contacted by any third-party interveners, so we're going to skip that part. So after the applicant presentation and the staff presentation, we'll hear public comment, which will be limited to 3 minutes on each item. And then the applicant's going to be given the chance to cross-examine, and then staff will be given the chance to cross-examine. Then the members of the decision-making body, through the chair, may ask questions of the staff, applicant, party interveners, or participants. And then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and staff. Then the city attorney will advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. And then the commission will enter into deliberations, upon which a vote will then take place. Okay, any questions about the quasi-judicial proceedings from the commission? Any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, we have sworn everyone in. Mr. Attorney, would you please read into the record ordinance 2020-01?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-01, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 02667-008-000. More specifically described in this ordinance is petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas, you want to give us a staff overview?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 1 second. I had prepared the staff report in anticipation of going over the 4 objection properties ordinances first, so I'm a little bit out of order.
Give me a minute.
And the presentation, now I do want to ask, given that the commission's general decision is to go ahead and move forward, do we want to go into the discussion of each of those 4 specifically, or do we just want the general overview and move on?
I think when we get to those items, you can give us the general overview, and then if the commission wants any more level of specificity, they can ask for it.
Okay. 1 moment. While still learning this. And I apologize, I zipped through it faster than I intended. I get to the right ordinance.
You're close.
There we go.
All right.
There we go. Okay. Ordinance 2020-01. This is down in the Watermelon Pond vicinity, down on County Road 337. It's a single parcel being annexed and approximately 7.5 acres. It's contiguous to the city of Newberry on 2 sides, the east and the west side. As with most of our annexations, although quasi-judicial, I don't anticipate, we've not been contacted by any of the owner applicants that they wish to give any kind of a presentation. So in the absence of that, the staff overview and staff report is kind of one and the same.
Okay. Does that conclude your overview?
For 2020-01, do we want to go through the entirety or?
No. Let's focus on them one at a time. And is the applicant here to make a presentation for 01?
Dallas, has anybody raised their hand?
I'm assuming that for many of these, the applicant will not be here to make a presentation. So it's okay if they're not. I just want to make sure if they're here, they get a chance to speak.
We have not been contacted, Mr. Mayor, by anybody who wanted to come forward and give a presentation on their application.
Okay, so does your overview also conclude your report on 01 and recommendation?
Yes, sir. The recommendation is to enact ordinance 2020-01 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. All right, at this point, we have a chance for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on this annexation? And Dallas, I can't see anybody anymore except for 4 people on the side. So you have to tell me if you see anybody raise their hand. Hearing none. We don't have an applicant for a cross-examination. I'm assuming staff hadn't heard anything that they want to cross-examine themselves about. All right, so we are 2 members of the commission asking any questions of staff. Do any of the members have any questions? And Dallas, can you put the commissioners back on the screen for me so I can see people? Thank you, sir. Anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none, staff doesn't want to make a final argument, I'm assuming. So, Mr. Attorney, will you advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, we're governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard. The question before the commission is, does it meet all of the annexation requirements in Chapter 171 of the Florida statutes in terms of being contiguous and reasonably compact based on the evidence presented? That's the issue before the commission tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. So we will now enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-01 on second reading at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
From Commissioner Coleman to approve, a second from Commissioner Martin to approve. I'll do a roll call. Well, we have a motion on the table. Is there any final questions or comments from the commission? Any final questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth,
Aye.
and the motion passes unanimously. We're going to move right into ordinance 2020-02. I'm not going to reread the procedures because no one new has entered the meeting, correct, Dallas?
Correct.
Mr. Attorney, would you read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-02, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 02519-001-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas, you want to give the staff overview?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Get back on track here with the. Okay, so ordinance 2020-02 is the annexation of a single parcel. It's 19.81 acres approximately. It is down on the north side of Southwest 30th Avenue, the unpaved section just before you get to the county line, Southwest 298th Street. It is surrounded on 3 sides by the city of Newberry. Across the street to the south, there's still some unannexed, unincorporated Alachua County lands. And that's
Okay.
the staff recommendation would be to approve ordinance 2020-02 on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Dallas, would you put the screen back? And I'll, at this point, ask for public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment on this item? Hearing and seeing none, we will go down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions that you want to direct to staff about this item? Seeing none, I'm assuming again, we don't have any final arguments to be made. Mr. Attorney, it's the same advice as before.
That is correct.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
substantial and competent evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. And now we will enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-02 on second reading. I
So
have a
moved.
motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. We have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners? Commissioner Farnsworth, is that a question?
That's a question.
Okay,
Does the attorney have to read the ordinance before we vote on it?
he just did.
Okay.
But yes, he does.
Yes, absolutely.
Was that a second to the motion, Commissioner Farnsworth, or was that a question at the beginning?
Second.
It was a second. Okay. So I have a motion and a second. Any other questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We'll move right on to 2020-03. Again, not reading the procedures because we don't have anybody else joining us. And so I'll ask you, Mr. Attorney, please read the ordinance into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-03. An ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 02517-001-001, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Okay, Mr. Thomas.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2020-03 pertains to a 35.93 acre parcel. Again, it's a single parcel requesting annexation in. It's also down in that same area, just north of Southwest 30th Avenue, close to the county line. As you can see, I forgot you can't see. Hold on one moment, please. Okay. This was 2020-02. This is 2020-03. It's both of these are basically helping to eliminate existing enclaves that we have in that area. The staff recommendation would be to enact ordinance 2020-03 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. And we've come to public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment on this item?
I do not see any.
Dallas, if you could put me back on the screen where I can see all the commissioners, that'd be great. Hearing nobody from the public, we will move down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff on this item? Mr. Commissioner Martin.
Brian, how does anybody get to that property? Is it landlocked, or is there something that's not in this photo?
Mr. Mayor, the property in question has easement across properties that are in front of it to access Southwest 30th Avenue. That's one of the things when we are approached by people who want to split their land, we make sure that they have legal easements for ingress and egress before they make those splits.
Okay. The 2020-02 is the piece southwest, and then there's this non-annexed piece there in between them, essentially?
Yes, so the original owner, that was all one parcel, and he cut off 5 acres and maintained that, I believe, for himself, and did not want to annex in at this time. We did approach him, but he was not interested.
Okay, thank you.
I see the city manager smiling.
What's that?
Okay, are there any other commissioner comments, questions on 2020-03? Okay, seeing none, city attorney, same advice as the previous two.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve 2020-03.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner
Second.
Farnsworth, a second from Commissioner McKinley. We have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Does the commission have any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, Commissioner McKinley?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. And now we will move forward. We still have no new additions to the public to 2020-04. Mr. Attorney, will you please read that into the record for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-04, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 02610-000-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Now, Mr. Thomas, this is our first annexation that the county has expressed some concerns on. So if in your overview / report, you could give us a brief reason why we believe that this annexation should move forward, and then we'll let the commission ask any more specific questions later on in the quasi judicial. But go ahead and address what those concerns are and address why we believe the annexation should move forward anyway.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully, as you can, let me go to annotation again. Hopefully, as you can see on your screen, the parcel in question, which is a 19.4 acre parcel, it's in an existing enclave right now. This, as you can see, Southwest 250th Street. The area surrounding it, you can see the dotted line is the city of Newberry's municipal boundary. And it's basically bringing this in would help shrink overall the size of that enclave. The neighbor directly to the south, it's approximately 2 acres, would be the new enclave created. The owner was non-responsive, and so we could not include it in this annexation because you didn't have their application. But certainly, we do try to contact people in the general vicinity surrounding all the annexations to see if they'd like to join in. We just weren't successful in this instance. We thought we had the understanding with the county that if it's just shrinking, as you had pointed out, that if it's just shrinking an existing enclave, that they were fine with us to proceed with that. Staff, I guess, interpretation is by the strictest interpretation of the statutes that creating, even though it's already an enclave, it technically creates yet another. So this, in staff's opinion, city staff's opinion, is that it's just shrinking another enclave that already exists. And so staff recommendation would be to approve ordinance 2020-04 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. We've now entered the time for public comments on 2020-04. Dallas, if you could bring us back to the screen with everybody on there. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment on this?
Mr. Mayor, we have one person with a hand raised. Mr.
Okay.
Justin Richardson.
Go right ahead.
Hello. My
Can you
name is
identify your name. Thank you, sir. Identify your
my
name.
name is Justin Richardson. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for considering our application. My wife and I are hoping to build our home on this particular parcel, and we were hoping to do that as part of the city of Newberry. So I thank you for considering this, and have a great evening.
Thank you for wanting to join the city of Newberry. We always love it when people come to us and volunteer to annex in. And thank you for being here with us tonight. Does that conclude your comment, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none. We will move down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff? Do you want a greater level of specificity about this? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Attorney, same advice as the previous three.
It is, but I would add just an additional comment on this, or just an additional clarification with respect to meeting the requirements under the voluntary annexation statute of contiguity and reasonable compactness. On that reasonable compactness part, the focus is, does it create enclaves? And as Mr. Thomas has pointed out, it sounds like the county is taking a very strict interpretation of that. Compactness means, does it create an enclave? Our standard here is reasonably compact, and as Mr. Thomas has shown us, if there is an enclave created, it's reducing the size. So arguably, as a matter of law, this does meet the legal definition of reasonably compact.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Okay, we'll now enter into deliberations. If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve 2020-04.
So
Move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner McKinley and a second from Commissioner Norfleet. Is that right? That'll work?
Close enough.
Close enough. All right. I have a motion properly seconded. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Any questions or comments from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. Commissioner McKinley, roll call.
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We are on to 2020-05. Same rules apply. No new members of the audience have joined us. Mr. Attorney, please read that ordinance into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance, ordinance number 2020-05, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 02632-000-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, 1 second. I get back to the correct ordinance number. Again, they were out of order because of assumed sequencing. Here we go. Okay. This is ordinance 2020-05. It did not open where I told it to. Pardon me for 1 moment. And get to the right slide. There we go. Okay, now we're on the right slide. Ordinance 2020-05. It's a smaller parcel, 5.69 acres. It is an existing complete enclave unto itself. And so the annexation of this parcel would eliminate one of our existing enclaves, which we're excited about. And staff's recommendation is to enact ordinance 2020-05 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. We've entered into public comment on this. Does anyone from the public wish to make a comment? Dallas. Thank you, Dallas. Oh, I still can't see everybody, Dallas. Hearing nobody from the public, we will move down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff on 2020-05? Seeing none, we will move down to city attorney. Same advice?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-05 on second reading.
So moved.
I have a
So moved.
motion from Commissioner Coleman and a
Second.
second from Commissioner Martin. I have a
Yep.
motion properly seconded on the floor. Any questions or comments from the commission? Any questions, comments from the public? Hearing none. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously, and that takes us to 2020-06. Mr. Attorney, if you would read this into the record for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-06, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel numbers 01926-005-000 and 01926-010-015. More specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas, this is our second ordinance, our annexation that the county has expressed some concerns. So in your overview and report, if you kind of tell us a little bit about why you think this annexation should move forward and address that. And again, the commission can ask any further questions later on in the quasi judicial. Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As stated, this is ordinance 2020-06. It is one of the four ordinances the county has expressed concern over. Primarily, the concerns revolve around the creation of a new enclave. The concern with the creation of a new enclave is it further isolates the existing enclave and creates potential for inefficiencies in service. Zooming out to give a little bit greater perspective on where and how the property lies. As you can, sorry, let me get to my annotation again. As you can see, to the far north of the overall enclave, you've got West Newberry Road. This is almost directly south of Comoko Ranch and the county's new equestrian center. As you can see, it's already an existing serpentine enclave, a fairly substantial one. This is two parcels that are adjacent to each other that have requested to be annexed into the city of Newberry. The concern by the county is the creation of this new enclave to the east of those two parcels. In the previous slide, you might have been able to see, but each of these parcels is configured such that each one has frontage. This line right here, this municipal line, is Southwest 15th Avenue. And so each of these properties has direct access to Southwest 15th Avenue. So in terms of the limited services that are provided to rural, staff doesn't think that there's a potential for inefficiencies because there's no impediment by annexing these properties and shrinking this overall enclave. There should not be any interference whatsoever with provided services as they already exist. And again, it's our goal to over time shrink these and eventually eliminate these enclaves through voluntary annexations. And so staff's recommendation on this ordinance is to pass ordinance 2020-04 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Do we have any comment from the public on 2020-06?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer one insight.
Okay, Mr. Manager, and if you would speak up since you're speaking.
Mr. Mayor, I've just mentioned that large circuitous enclave that Brian was pointing out used to not be an enclave before Comoko Ranch was annexed. And when Comoko Ranch was annexed, the county advised us to continue trying to close out that entire enclave. So I think that staff pointed this out, but I don't think the county would have any grounds for an objection since they gave us that direction 2 or 3 years ago when Comoko Ranch annexed.
Thank you for that context, Mr. Manager. Dallas, thank you. Perfect. Read my mind. Do we have any other members of the public wishing to make a comment on this ordinance?
I don't see any, Mr. Mayor.
Seeing none, thank you. We will move down to the decision-making bodies. Does the commission have any questions for staff on this one? Seeing none, Mr. Attorney, same advice as before. Do you have any other context to provide for this item?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We'll now enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve 2020-06 on second reading.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Norfleet.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Coleman. I have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Are there any further questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public? Commissioner Martin, question?
As it relates to Kamoka Ranch, I guess I'm losing my bearings as to where this property is. 226 is the one that is across from Kamoka Ranch going south to 15th. Is this just mislabeled or something maybe? As the diagram has 282nd Street, which is much farther west.
Due south of
226.
226.
So this diagram, okay, actually I look underneath the text, it does say 226, so the text labeling is wrong.
Oh.
Okay. I see. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes.
On page 86 of the packet? Okay.
Brian, are you following the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Yeah, it looks like it got mislabeled.
Okay. No worries. Okay.
Okay.
Carry on.
Any other questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Any public comments on the motion on the floor? Okay, Commissioner McKinley? Roll call.
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that will take us to ordinance 2020-07. Mr. Attorney, if you could read that one into the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-07, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County, identified as tax parcel number 04364-005-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations, and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas?
Sir. Okay, this is ordinance 2020-07. It's a 4.01 acre parcel. As you can see, it's on the corner of Southwest 15th and 170th Street. It's directly adjacent on the left to the city of Newberry municipal boundaries, and is not one of the ordinances that has raised concerns with the county. Staff's recommendation is to approve ordinance 2020-07 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Public comment on ordinance 2020-07. Can't see, there you are now, so you can go ahead now.
Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. That'll take us down to the commission. You have any questions on 07 for staff? Commissioner Martin?
I have a question. Brian, I noticed that is already labeled Rose Petal Nursery. Would there necessarily be any conflict of for us? It looks based on the property appraiser website. It's what is GRZG, Commissioner Coleman? Grazing soil?
Correct.
Zoning description is ag. Land use description is pasture 2, nursery retail, and mobile home sub.
It's ag. It's got, yeah, I know the place very well. It has an ag classification on it.
Okay. And that's
And,
legit for them to be doing that business or whatever there, right?
yes,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, it's both in the county land use and zoning for agriculture uses and the city of Newberry land use and zoning agriculture uses, they can operate a agricultural based business like that, nursery, et cetera, in ag without any additional land use changes or considerations.
Okay, perfect.
Any more questions, Commissioner Martin?
Is that, Brian, is our boundary the 170th or is it west or east of 170th?
It's this particular property is east of 170th. Our boundary in that area is west of 170th. Further to the north on the other side of Newberry Road, we do have some municipal boundary that exceeds 170th to a little bit to the east. In this particular area, though, it is on the west.
Does that make a difference for us in the long run? I mean, would our boundary now go around their property?
No, sir. The unincorporated Alachua County would be on 3 sides of their property. City of Newberry would be on 1 side of their property until such a time as their neighbors started to annex in as well.
I guess my thinking is, if it's outside of our boundary, are we able to annex it? That's okay, just as long as it abuts our boundary.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the state statutes allow for annexation when you have substantial contiguity with the municipal boundary, and you don't create an enclave where you have a property that's surrounded on all sides by either the municipality or the unincorporated area. In this particular instance, since there is 1 side that's directly adjacent, it qualifies as far as having substantial contiguity and reasonable compactness. It's one parcel adjacent to the municipal boundary.
Understood. No further questions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Martin. Any further questions from the commission for staff? Hearing none, we will ask the city attorney, and same advice as before.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-07 upon second reading.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner McKinley. I have a motion probably second on the floor. Any questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. We'll move on to ordinance 2020-08. Mr. Attorney, will you read that into the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-08, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel numbers 04276-007-000, 04276-010-000, 04276-011-000, 04226-012-000, 04276-000-000, 04276-005-000, and 04276-002-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Dallas, did you have something to?
Mr. Mayor, someone new has joined as an attendee.
Okay, thank you. So let me quickly go through the quasi judicial proceedings. Again, we've already have the ordinance read in. I'm just going to go ahead and go through these proceedings. We are in a quasi judicial. The commission is sitting as a judicial body. We've already read the ordinance 2020-08 into the record. And so now I'm going to explain the rules concerning the testimony, primarily that substantial and competent evidence must be met when the board makes a decision, and shall state the following. Quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. Before I explain the order of presentations, I'd like to ask if the new person who has joined us would like to be sworn in to say anything concerning 2020-08.
Use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to be sworn in.
I can't see your face down, so you have to tell me
Mr.
verbally.
Mayor, no one's raised their hands to be sworn in.
Okay. Just to make sure we cover all of our bases, I'll go ahead and ask the commission again for any ex parte communication, specifically on 2020-08. We've already said we haven't on any of them, but let's just go around. Commissioner McKinley? I can't see your face, so you have to say yay or nay. Dallas, can you put everybody's faces back on my screen?
Nay.
Nay. Commissioner Coleman?
Nay.
Commissioner Martin?
Nay.
Commissioner Norfleet?
Nay.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Nay.
Okay, thank you all. I have not either. So we've sworn everybody that's going to speak. We've gone through ex parte. The first thing we're going to do is hear a staff overview. Then the applicant who is not present would be given a chance to have a no time limit presentation. Then we'd hear the staff report and recommendation with no time limit. We do not have any third party interveners that have contacted us, so that would take us to public comment. And that would also take us after public comment down to the applicant cross-examination, followed by the staff cross-examination. Then the members of the decision-making body through the chair would ask questions of the staff or the participants, and then final arguments would be made by the applicant or the staff. The city attorney would then advise the decision-making body as to the applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve by the application. Then the commission will enter into deliberations, and after deliberations, a vote shall be taken to approve the conditions, or continue or deny the application. Okay, that being said, we're back on track. We already have the ordinance read in. We are ready to go to the staff overview. Mr. Thomas, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This, as stated, is ordinance 2020-08. It is approximately 84 acres, plus or minus. It's several parcels that are joined together in this particular annexation ordinance. This is down near the intersection of Northwest 170th Street and West Newberry Road. As you can see in the shaded area, the city's boundary here goes all the way to 170th and actually crosses 170th a little bit for a few acres on the other side as well. And then the southern connectivity is on the other side of Newberry Road. The boundaries have substantial contiguity with the city of Newberry existing municipal boundaries, and actually add to the reduction, or add to it benefits the finger parcel or finger pocket area that's unincorporated out here by helping to reduce that overall footprint and increase the overall footprint in the area of the city of Newberry. So it adds to the compactness of this overall area as well. It's not one of the parcels that's or groupings that's been listed as of concern to the county. And so therefore staff's recommendation is to enact ordinance 2020-08 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Public comments. Do you have anyone from the public wishing to comment on 2020-08?
Do not see any, Mr. Mayor.
Say that one more time, Dallas. I can't see your face. Can't tell if it's
I
me.
do not see any comments.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move down to the commission. Do you have any questions for staff?
No.
Seeing none, we will move to the same advice given by the attorney.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Sir. All right, we'll now enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve Ordinance 2020-08 on second reading.
So moved.
Who said that?
Second.
McKinley. I have a motion from Commissioner McKinley, I think it was, and a second from Commissioner Martin. I have a motion probably second on the floor. Any questions, comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and we are on to 2020-09. Mr. Attorney, would you please read it into the record?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-09, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 04270-000-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas.
All right, Mr. Mayor, one moment, please.
Again, this is our third ordinance that the county has expressed concern. So, Mr. Thomas, in your report and recommendation, if you would go over what the concern is and again, why we think this one should move forward. And then the commission can ask you any more specific questions when we get later on in the quasi judicial.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 2020-09 is approximately 80.87 acres. It's in that, again, that same vicinity of the Northwest 170th Street and West Newberry Road intersection. As you can see, the city's municipal boundary does reach out and touch the parcel. It's all single parcel. The county concerns as listed here that it's not substantially contiguous, not compact, and further creates additional pockets. One of the things that staff noted when analyzing the letter from the county is it also does not include the additional annexation that we just saw, which was ordinance 2020-08. And so when you add 2020-08, staff believes the compactness of the overall area is improved to the extent that it lessens the lack of compactness potential for this particular property as well. It's a heavily wooded section. To our knowledge, the owners have not expressed any interest in development. If they were to annex in and wanted to develop, just as the county comprehensive plan limits residential development to 1 unit per 5 acres, so does the city of Newberry's. And so the potential for land use conflicts are really, in staff's opinion, minimal because we share very similar agricultural land use provisions. And so to give it a little bit farther out perspective, you can see a little bit broader picture here of the city's boundaries. Newberry Road runs right here at the base of 08. One of the concerns the county expressed also was it appeared, and you can just kind of make out a little bit of the roadway there, that it appeared to have access only from Newberry Road across county private drives that are in the unincorporated Alachua County, but actually this parcel this is all one ownership right here that goes directly to 170th. And so the same owner actually has direct connectivity from this parcel to 170th as well, whether or not they annex in. And so staff's recommendation would be to enact ordinance 2020-09 on second reading.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Public comment on ordinance 2020-09. Okay, I can't see your face, Dallas, so I'm assuming we have none.
There's no comment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. That will take us down to members of the decision-making body. Does the commission have any questions for staff on this annexation? Commissioner Martin? Have you muted yourself, Commissioner Martin, or Dallas, did you mute him?
Dallas,
There you go.
for crying out. Brian, they didn't.
You muted yourself again, Commissioner Martin.
I think I was trying to unmute him and he was unmuted himself.
Okay. All right, everybody's hands off. Go ahead, Commissioner Martin.
Brian, the property owner didn't try to annex all this other property that they have adjacent to it as well?
I'm not sure I'm certain which properties that you're referring to, sir.
They own property to the west, they own property to the northeast.
Yeah, yes, they would like to. They've definitely expressed interest in annexing all of their property in the area. However, to go any further west would then encapsulate this area of unincorporated Alachua County, which would then create a larger enclave. As it is now, it's a what the county would consider a pocket enclave. To bring this part, actually the parcel goes even further north. To bring that parcel in would fully enclose the remaining area, parts of Dudley Farm, a few, a small neighborhood in here, and a couple of 5 and 10 acre parcels to the west of Dudley Farm.
Okay.
Any further questions, Commissioner Martin? Any other commissioners have any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Attorney, same advice as before?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll now enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-09 on second reading.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Norfleet and a second from Commissioner Martin. Okay, I have a motion properly second on the floor. Any questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to 2020-10. Mr. Attorney, would you please read that ordinance into the record for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-10, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel numbers 04152-000-000, 04155-000-000, 04155-002-000, 04155-001-001, and 04155-001-001, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Okay, Mr. Thomas, we're on our last ordinance that the county has expressed some concerns over. So in your overview and report, if you could discuss those concerns and why you believe that the annexation should move forward, and briefly, if the commission has any more specific questions, they can ask them when we get later on in the quasi judicial. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Okay, so for ordinance 2020-10, as stated on the right of your screen, the county's concerns are that it is not substantially contiguous. If you measure the entire perimeter of this annexation area against the area or the length that it's contiguous with the city, they're concerned that it's not contiguous enough, that it's not compact, and you can see that there are actually I think some merit to that claim, and we'll get into that in a moment, and creates a finger enclave, and that specifically, especially the point-to-point contiguity between these two areas is insufficient to constitute contiguity or compactness. And so one of the things that makes this a little more interesting is that now you can see it. This is actually all listed as a single tax parcel. And so in order for this annexation not to have a point-to-point contiguity issue, this piece of this parcel would have to be severed from this piece, and then this piece included in the annexation separately, and this left off. The property owner at the time, this time, didn't want to have to go through that process to sever the two, and wanted to try to go ahead with the annexation. If this is an issue and the commission were to decide not to bring this in, it would also affect the properties to the south that have joined in with this particular annexation ordinance, because the large parcel here to the north is the only parcel that provides contiguity with the municipal boundary at this time. If you go just south of this line, and this is the Gatorback properties where the Gatorback Raceway is, the municipal line runs right here. And so these properties to the south would not qualify for annexation at this time if this parcel is taken out. It's an unusual situation. It's kind of unique. One of the issues that the county has presented is that again, there could be conflicts with potential conflicts with land use, but again, the Alachua County land use for agricultural and the city of Newberry's land use for agricultural are considerably similar in terms of what can and can't be done on agricultural properties. In terms of densities, they're almost the same. 1 unit per 5 acres is the limit in the county as well as in the city of Newberry. And so for that reason, staff recommends enactment on second reading of ordinance 2020-10.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. That brings us to public comment. Do you have any members of the public wishing to speak to ordinance 2020-10? Hearing none, I will take us down to members of the decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff on this annexation?
No.
Seeing none, Mr. Attorney, do you have anything to add in terms of the context? Or do you want to advise as to the applicable law?
Mr. Mayor, it would be competent and substantial evidence once again. There is a body of law out there that the point-to-point corners of property are not sufficient under annexation law to provide contiguity. It looks to me like this property is also not encompassed in any of the enclaves. So our argument to the county that has been in the previous annexations that were merely closing in enclave areas would not be available to us from my view of the map, at least on annexation 2020-10.
But that body of law speaks to point-to-point contact of different properties, not the same parcel.
I think that the body of law would not accept point-to-point properties like that. In other words,
properties is property. It's one parcel.
Correct, but a point-to-point contact like that for 2 parcels does not provide contiguity. That's the point.
Okay. But our argument is it's in essence one parcel of property. So just because it's connected by a point instead of a sliver or something like that, but that would be the conversation that we'll have with the BOCC if they decide to object.
My advice to you is that it would not survive a challenge. If it's challenged, we would not survive that type of challenge. If there are other property owners that are adjoining to these 2 parcels or these 2 properties, then that would provide sufficient contiguity, perhaps in the future. But standing alone, as we look at this annexation, it would not survive a challenge.
Okay, well, you're disinvited to the BOCC meeting. All right. Anything in terms of the context of this that you want to offer are the applicable law? Okay, then we'll move to deliberations. And if there are no deliberations, then we will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-10.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Who was my second? I have a second from Commissioner McKinney. I have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners on the motion on the floor? Any questions or comments from the public on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet,
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that takes us blessedly to the very last annexation, 2020-11. Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 2020-11, an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida, annexing certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County identified as tax parcel number 01880-000-000, more specifically described in this ordinance as petitioned for by the property owners pursuant to section 171.044 Florida statutes, making certain findings, providing for land use, zoning, and land development regulations and enforcement of the same, providing directions to the clerk of the commission, providing a severability clause, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Thomas.
Yes, sir. Last one. Okay, this is ordinance 2020-11. It is a 105 roughly acre parcel. As you can see, it's down southwest, or excuse me, up on northwest 32nd Avenue and just west of northwest 266th Street. It's a single parcel requesting annexation, and it is surrounded on all sides by the city of Newberry municipal boundary, and therefore we would be eliminating yet again another one of our numerous enclaves that we're trying to eliminate, and this would help get us towards that goal. For that reason, staff recommends that the commission enact ordinance 2020-11 on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. We're to public comments. Anybody from the public have a comment on ordinance 2020-11? Okay, seeing none. Members of the decision-making body, do you have any questions for staff on this annexation? Seeing none, Mr. Attorney, same argument, same advice?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We'll now enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2020-11 on second reading. I have a motion from Commissioner Norfleet.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Farnsworth. I have a motion properly seconded on the floor. Are there any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? From the commission. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the public? Hearing and seeing none. Roll call. Commissioner McKinley.
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet.
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that will bring our quasi-judicial public hearings to a close. Great job to staff on all of these annexations. That's a lot of acreage being brought in, a lot of enclaves being shrunk or closed out. We really appreciate it on behalf of the entire commission. And that will take us to our agenda items. New item 8 is the CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Program bid recommendation and status update. I believe, Dallas, are you taking us through that, or is it the manager?
In the agreement for some professional services.
I'm being told that you're taking us through that, Dallas.
Dallas? Mr. will be presenting this item.
Can you hear me, Dallas?
I can hear you, Daniel.
Ah, Okay, I can't see you, Dennis, but I can hear you. Oh, there you are. I found you.
Okay. Good evening. Dennis Dingman with Summit Professional Services. Tonight, I'd like to ask that a motion and vote be taken to award 3 more CDBG housing applicants to contractors. On October 24th, we received bids for 5 rehabilitations of housing units. And on January 9th, we received 5 demolition bids. When I was there on January 27th at the commission meeting, we held back on 4 awards to contractors because we had submitted for the city an application for SHIP funding in the amount of $40,000 to the Alachua County SHIP Department. We have been verbally told that this award is going to be made, and Dallas, I'm not sure whether or not we received the contract from the county's attorney yet, but given that there has been a verbal agreement, we wanted to award the last 3 homeowners. One would be Maria Benitez on 26302 Southwest 4th Avenue. She's a rehabilitation and certified roofing and construction was a low bidder on that. Miss Sharon Motes, who lives at 185 Southwest 251st Street, also was low bid by Certified Roofing and Construction. By the way, they are Newbury residents, this company is. And then Margaret Darling at 680 Northwest 251st Street, and that's a rebuild, a demolition rebuild. And Florida Homes of Alachua, Alachua, I apologize, won that bid. We are currently underway with 7 homes. 3 are rehabilitations. I spoke to the homeowners, Miss Lewis, Miss Cheeseborough, and Miss Hughes on Friday, and they are extremely pleased. We're almost finished with them. We have some attic insulation to do, and I believe a air conditioner has to go on one home, but they're extremely pleased, and we should finish up on those. We have 3 houses that are have been demolished, and we have the slabs poured on those. We've just cleared up, and thank you to Brian for this. We've just cleared up a boundary incursion on one of the homeowners, Mr. Williams. So we would be going to contract on him as well. So with these 3, if you award the bids tonight, we will have 11 homes being built. And that's basically all that we're going to build with the money we have available. Again, this is if we get a contract from the SHIP department, but we don't want to wait until that contract is signed before we go ahead and award. We can always hold up the contract signing until we receive the actual SHIP contract, but with everybody on COVID, I have to say we have budgeted for living assistance, and we budgeted for change orders, but because of the COVID situation, it's putting a lot of pressure on those budgets. And so we want to do as much as we can to move forward. If, for example, we start to feel a pinch on one of the budgets, specifically living expenses, we may have to limit the amount of living assistance that we give to the last 2 demolition homeowners. That money is not guaranteed. It's if it's available. And so we will talk to them. And if those homeowners, by the way, can live with a family member while their house is being rebuilt, we ask them to do that so we can conserve enough money. But if we can't give everybody the full allotment of money that we'd like to give them, we will try to split that remaining money up equally between the homeowners. So at this point, I would ask, are there any questions?
Commissioner, have any questions? Mr. Dingman? I don't see any hands being raised.
Okay, then there is a recommended action on the packet that we provided. Recommended action number 1, and then a sample motion if someone would like to make that, and a vote to award these 3 homeowners to these contractors.
Okay, do I hear any commissioner wishing to make that motion? Commissioner
So
Coleman?
moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Is that a second, Commissioner Coleman? I got a second from Commissioner Coleman for the recommended action. Any questions or comments on the motion on the floor from the commission? Do I have any questions or comments, the motion on the floor from the public? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to Oak Park Phase 1 Final Plat Approval Request. Mr. Thomas, are you taking us through this agenda item? You need to unmute yourself, Brian.
Thank you.
There you go.
One moment, sir, while we get the appropriate slideshow up. Oh, there it is. Okay, Mr. Mayor, this is consideration for final plat approval for Oak Park Phase 1. The Oak Park Phase 1 subdivision, or Oak Park subdivision, is on Fifth Avenue, just Northwest Fifth Avenue, just north of Hitchcock's and that general vicinity. 70 units. As mentioned, this is Phase 1 of 2. The plat was reviewed thoroughly and approved by the city surveyor. Developers have provided a surety agreement that's been approved by the city attorney. And the approval of the surety allows the developer to go ahead and begin pulling some residential building permits while he finishes the infrastructure that's currently under construction. As you can see, this is a general boundary survey, but a little bit more detail here. This is what the actual plat looks like for Phase 1. Staff's recommendation is approval of the final plat for Oak Park Phase 1. And I believe that the agent for the developers is in the audience. I don't know if they wanted to speak or not, but I believe I saw the Jay Brown here.
Okay, Mr. Brown, do you have anything you'd like to say before the commission is open for questions?
Mr. Brown, you should be able to.
Mr. Mayor, we are participating. I know that Mr. McDaniel, the developer, is also paying attention here this evening. This is a great access you're providing during these crazy times, and we very much appreciate it. We really don't have anything to add to Mr. Thomas's presentation today. You've already seen this project several occasions before as we've gone through construction drawings and completed all of our permitting. So this is just the final stage of Phase 1 so that we can get the plat recorded and start selling lots. So we'd appreciate your approval this evening, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll open it to the commissioners. Commissioners have any questions for Mr. Thomas? I'm not seeing any. Okay, and is there a recommended action in your packet? Yes, right? Just checking. So the recommended action is to approve the final plat and to approve the final surety. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner
Second.
Murphy and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Okay, I have a motion properly seconded Are there any questions or comments from the motion, from the commission on the motion on the floor?
Mr. Mayor, I would just note very quickly in the surety agreement, the Coleman Construction Corporation has no relation to our Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. Wonderful to point that out. Okay, hearing no questions or comments, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Reluctant, soft no.
and Commissioner Norfleet. Commissioner Farnsworth. Okay, that was an aye. It was inaudible, but I did see it read his lips. It was aye.
Yeah.
There it is. Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Martin in dissent. And that takes us to item 10, report on Newberry COVID-19 work plan and extending the local state of emergency. Mr. Manager, you want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not gonna turn on my volume. I'm just gonna try to speak
Yep.
up and get through here. Just briefly to give the commission and the public a bit of an update on the city of Newberry's operational response to COVID-19. We've done our best to keep you guys, at least our elected officials, notified via email. But the public meeting, I thought would be a good opportunity to do that. Dallas, can I advance the slides, or am I counting on you to do that for me?
You have to count on me.
Okay, advance. Mayor, we're also going to consider in this agenda item extending the state of emergency in Newberry for 7 days by resolution. So that resolution is in your backup material. As you recall, our charter or state law allows us to declare a state of emergency for 7 days. So once a week, we have to continue our state of emergency. We're paralleling, as you know, we're paralleling the county and the state in the state of emergency. And being in a declared state of emergency gives the city certain protections and opportunities that it wouldn't otherwise have. There's a list from A through H of those opportunities that are afforded by maintaining a state of emergency. One of the primary ones is that we're allowed to recoup certain expenses through FEMA when we're in a declared state of emergency. Guys, if you'd advance the slide, please. Just from a staffing perspective, want the commission and the public to know that all of our full-time staff are working full-time. Some are working from work and some are working from home. But the guys that are reporting to work every day are our fire department personnel, our utility, public works, facilities personnel. Building inspections are almost at the fastest pace we've ever seen. I mean, it didn't slow down, it sped up, it seems like. And customer service is available via our drive-through. Our staff that are telecommuting or working from home are pretty much everyone else, administrative staff and all others. Some have been retooled for other functions, primarily our recreation department staff. The only staff we have that are not making the same hours they previously did are our part-time recreation staff. And that public, while many of our facilities are closed, can access our staff during regular working hours via telephone, via email. So we're trying to make ourselves as accessible as we've always been. And it's been a time of great innovation as we've tried to adapt to not being able to be face-to-face with our customers. We've tried to roll out opportunities so that we can communicate with them more efficiently and provide at least the same level of service. Dallas, if you could advance the slide, please. So some programs that we've initiated since we declared a state of emergency back in March, or just things that we've undertaken. The PCA, which was approved in our consent agenda earlier, is a negative for the second consecutive month. That means that we are crediting customers on their utility bills, which is it's very nice at a time when people are unsure about their income to be able to get a credit on their utility bills. I won't go through the whole list that you see in the slide deck, but we've done many things in customer service to make life more comfortable for our residents. We're operating a robust social media campaign to make sure that our residents know where to go for information. And just from our perspective, the keeper of almost all information related to employment or filing for support through the federal government. It resides on the county's website, so we've been pointing people that way. And lastly, we postponed our deadline for fire assessment hardship claims, which was going to be May the 1st. We've extended it, I think, for 90 days. Please advance the slide, Dallas. Just some of the things that you're seeing in our social media campaign. Other programs, we've put together a community coronavirus community relief fund to help with utility assistance. We kind of resurrected that program. We used to have a utility assistance committee, kind of brought that back up, and we are soliciting donations from the community. We've received almost $2,000 in donations from the community, and we have matched that with $2,000 from city funding. We are completing our building inspections, some virtually, where we have a Skype or a Zoom meeting and a contractor walks through the building and our guys view it and say, yeah, that looks good to them. Code enforcement has really transitioned to complaint only. And typically those complaints are coming through the county's 311 system. Residents are concerned that members of our public aren't complying with the governor's order or the county's order. They phone in the 311 and they forward that information to our code enforcement staff, and they go out and take a look at it, and we try to educate our customers on what the stay-at-home orders are saying. We in our recreation program, we've been very productive and very creative. We've developed a program called Newberry Eats. We're running lots of food distribution. We're distributing food 2 days a week at minimum. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to run a very large farm share operation out of Easton Newberry Sports Center. So if folks are unable to purchase food in the ways they normally would, they can come out to Newberry and participate in farm share. We've put a program in place to provide childcare for first responders if needed, and we're helping out school students that may have to print homework and things of that nature. We're helping they email their assignments to us, we print them, and they can pick them up through our drive-thru. Next slide, please. Just on the employee safety side, the things that we put in place to make sure that our employees are as safe as they can be related to coronavirus. Each of our employees completes a daily questionnaire asking them about things that might be related to coronavirus. We're taking body temperatures of every employee twice daily. We've provided masks, sneeze shield, hand sanitizer. So we're doing all the things that we can do to make sure that we are following the CDC's best practice to protect our employees and any of the public that we may be interfacing with. Next slide, please. And finally, recommended action again is to receive a report and to adopt resolution 2020-14, extending the state of emergency in Newberry for 7 days until May 4th, 2020.
Well, before I ask for a motion or comments on that, let me just say on behalf of the commission, on behalf of the community, what a great job I think our staff has done. It's truly been amazing to see our employees come together and come up with creative ways that they could keep our employees not only working and active, but in ways that are so beneficial to this community. The Newberry Eats program, the printing for the kids. I mean, it just truly is a wonderful thing to see. And I've gotten an awful lot of messages from residents thanking the city for all that we've done. I've got an awful lot of messages from other elected officials in other cities asking, how did we do it? You guys have come up with so much, and it just truly is great, and we appreciate it. And before I ask for a motion on the consent agenda, I should have recognized that for 2 months in a row, the PCA has a negative balance so that we can ease the financial hardships on our residents right now. And on behalf of the community for that, also, thank you. And with that, I'll ask for any comments, questions from the commission. If there are none, entertain a motion to approve resolution. I need to, Mr. Attorney, will you read the resolution into the record, please? You're muted, Rich.
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Resolution 2020-19, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, extending the state of general emergency for the City of Newberry pursuant to Section 252.38, subsection 2 of the Florida statutes due to the threat of the COVID-19 virus, providing for waiver of procedures and formalities, delegating authority, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution by reading of title only.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Okay, I'll give 1 second for doubt. Thank you, Dallas. All right, Commissioner, questions, comments, and want to make a motion? Commissioner Coleman? Oh, Commissioner Farnsworth? You're muted.
Not by choice.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner McKinley. Okay, I have a motion properly seconded. Are there questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none. Roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to our last item on the agenda, which is the authorization of a letter from the City of Newberry to Governor DeSantis requesting as swift as safely possible a reopening of business in Florida. A couple of you have reached out and discussed this with me, so I'll give it the opportunity for any commissioner to make a comment on this before I give my comments. Hearing no comment. My only comment on this is, I think that the governor has done a wonderful job listening to experts. I think that he has taken appropriate actions based on that advice, and I'd encourage him to do so. Listening to the press conferences this weekend, it seems to me like our governor is on that page. He's talking about having a plan developed over the next week or so, and then beginning to take steps towards that reopening, perhaps in 2 weeks period of time. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the note that Commissioner Hutchinson, the chair of Alachua County, put out about his thoughts about reopening. And I was very pleased to see them in almost lockstep alignment with the governor. So, I think that all elected officials, in conjunction with the advice that they're getting from the medical industry, are seeking the fastest and swiftest and safest way to get people back to work, making their money to pay their bills and taking care of that facet of their lives as well. So that would be the gist of the letter that I think that Newberry would send. It would be thanking the governor for the work that he's done, the leadership that he's provided, encouraging him to continue listening to those medical experts, and in so doing, to get our businesses back up and running as quickly as they can. I've had some residents ask, well, if that's how everybody feels, what's the point of sending the letter? And I guess my response to that would be, it is certainly possible in times like this to fall into the trap of saying, we've all heard the phrase, in the abundance of caution. Well, in an abundance of caution, you could keep everything shut down theoretically forever. So at some point, we have to get people back out and get the economy started. And as long as we can all agree on what those benchmarks should be for that to happen, I think that we're getting very close to seeing that day. So if there are no comments, I'll ask for a motion to authorize a letter to that. Any comments? Are you ready for a motion? Commissioner Martin?
No comment other than just to say, I think it is important for the governor to hear from us. So I'm in favor and I make a motion that we send a letter.
Okay.
I'll
thank you,
second
Commissioner
it.
Martin. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Coleman. Are there any questions or comments from the commission on the motion on the floor? Does the public have any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, roll call. Commissioner McKinley,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Norfleet, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and that brings us to city comment. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you'll recall, for the past several meetings, I've had very few comments. To the surprise of many, and I'm about to make up for that. No, actually, I'll keep it brief. Just to point out, municipal operations continue. Our offices are generally closed to the public, but all of our staff are working, as I mentioned earlier. And if you want to contact any city staff person, please telephone, please email. We'll be happy to arrange a time to meet with you either virtually or via telephone. We have ongoing projects. We're getting a lot of work done. Little Red Schoolhouse structural repairs is underway. If you're by there, you'll see the contractor's got that building. Looks kind of rough, right? Got to get darker before it gets dawn. And so we've got those projects underway. Our AMI project is out for bid. Those bids are due on May the 15th. We'll evaluate them, and it'll probably be 4 to 6 weeks before the commission sees them. And we'll make a recommendation on award at that point. We are beginning this week some stormwater swell maintenance work in Countryway subdivision on Southwest 254th. So we're gonna have a contractor out there doing some excavation. We're posting in social media for the general public to know that that is work being performed on the city's behalf. And that if they have questions, feel free to contact us. Just a reminder that if anybody would like to take advantage of Newberry Eats or Newberry Prints or Farm Share or seek utility assistance through the Coronavirus Community Relief Fund, please contact us at City Hall via telephone, via email. Also, to let you know that our staff are planning for the negative budget consequences that are associated with COVID-19. We haven't realized it necessarily yet, but a lot of our revenues generated through sales tax, and with the economic decline in Florida over the past several months, we think that we'll see an impact to our general fund. We think that we'll see an impact to Wild Spaces Fund. So we are working on ways to mitigate that. Even in this fiscal year, we've canceled all travel and non-essential expenditures for now. We're going to kind of wait and see what those budget impacts are before we consider anything that's a non-essential expenditure. And we are also working to develop a phased reopening. If you've listened to the president's plan for reopening, he had a 3-phase plan. We're currently, as an entity, operating somewhere between phase 1 and phase 2. So we don't have as far to go to get reopened, but we are developing a phase plan. You'll probably see maybe our parks open, not necessarily the playgrounds. You'll see some of our staff people return manning their workstations, and as an initial step at the appropriate time. And then hopefully sooner than later, you'll see us just return to normal operations. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing I would mention is that our office continues to be open as well. We are having to change a few things up. We are doing a lot more Zooms, obviously, and telephone hearings or conferences, but we're generally available if anybody needs to contact us. If you show up and knock on the door, it's locked. We haven't allowed too many folks in, but if you give us a call, we can make accommodations and so forth. But we are generally pretty accessible. Most of us are working. Most of the attorneys are working here at the office, and a couple of us are working from home, but you can always reach us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Madam Clerk?
Yes, I would just like to encourage our citizens to contact the city clerk's office if they have any questions regarding our municipal election. It's scheduled for August the 18th, and they can also call our Alachua County Supervisor of Elections at 374-5252 with any questions. and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If you didn't happen to see it on our consent agenda, there was a proclamation recognizing May 3rd through May 9th. That's Professional Municipal Clerks Week. I've directed staff to put all the proclamations on the consent agenda until we can see the people in person and read it out loud and get pictures and really celebrate with them. But I just wanted to let you know, Madam Clerk, we will absolutely recognize you as soon as we can do it in person.
Thank you.
All right. And on to the commissioner. Commissioner Coleman, any comments?
I don't have anything tonight.
I mean, you're a proud parent of a senior 2020
What?
graduate. I did see some pictures.
Here you go.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Well done. Yeah.
Go class of 2020.
And we are working hard to make sure that we recognize those seniors in some new and unique ways. Since they're
Riley. I was going to get her on TV, but I bet she won't come in.
She's not going to do that, I guarantee it. All right, Commissioner McKinley.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Farnsworth.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Martin.
I have nothing new. Thank you.
I want to say for the next Zoom meeting, you can't make everybody jealous with that Woodyard cup. Okay, I've been thirsting this whole time watching you sit there drinking that Woodyard.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Commissioner Norfleet. I think the manager touched on it. This Wednesday, we have a farm share event happening out at Easton. If you're able to volunteer, either commissioners or people listening at home, we're asking volunteers to get to Easton between 6:30 and 7 a.m. We'll begin distributing the food at 9 a.m. We've got cones laid out. We've got lanes. So it's all drive in and you'll be directed where to go. And we'll make sure we take care. We are expecting a larger turnout than usual. I don't know if you saw the lines for the farm share event that happened in Gainesville. Hi, Riley. Congratulations. Happy graduation. Everybody get the cameo when you're a 2020 graduate. So if you can come and help, that'd be great. And we would certainly appreciate it. Just another reminder to get those score responses for the P&Z. You can drive through the drive-through, drop them off. We'll make sure they get to Miss Judy and she'll tabulate it all. And we'll have our top 3 candidates for the next commission meeting. And then finally, I just want to say thank you to Newberry. I want to say thank you to Alachua County and the state of Florida for the way we've handled this unprecedented situation. If you heard the governor's press conference, you know, the early model said we were going to have we could have up to 460,000 hospitalizations right now in this moment, this day that we're in. And I think the number has ended up being in the low 2000s. That is an incredible success of people taking this seriously, practicing social distancing, taking the actions that they were asked to take. And we have flattened the curve, and our availability here in Alachua County for hospital beds is in really good shape. Our availability in the state is in really good shape, and that's due to everyone doing their part for their fellow man. So I do appreciate it. And that brings us to public comment. Dallas, do we have anybody in the public with their hand up?
I know, sir.
If that's a no that I just heard,
Correct.
then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Have a good night, y'all.
Good night.
You too.
All right.